My name's Neal Michie. I'm product manager at a company called Verimatrix. Verimatrix is a security company, global security company. We do everything from IP blocks that goes into chip designs into silicon, through to content protection for video streams, and we do software security, mobile security, which unsurprisingly is what we're talking about today. So it'll be interesting to see how the silent stages work. Hopefully everyone can hear me now. So let's double check. If you can hear me, raise your hand. Keep your hand up if you're a developer. Most of the room, but not all. That's good. And who's ever reverse engineered an application? Quite a few people. So a knowledgeable audience, that's always a good start. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the inherent security risk in Android applications and more generally in mobile applications. And it's always good to illustrate your point with an example. So rather than diving into the hows and the whys, I think it's good to show an example of a mobile application attack. Before I show the next slide, I must warn you, we like a bad joke at Verimatrix, so I apologize for the title. So a month back, 2 months back, there was quite a high-profile attack on WhatsApp. And what the attackers did was they found a vulnerability within the application. And a vulnerability, when you put certain packets, it was a buffer overflow attack, and you put certain packets into the application by simulating a phone call. So you pretended to phone someone, crafted the message in a certain way, and it caused a buffer overflow within WhatsApp. That buffer overflow allowed the attackers to then run malicious code within the WhatsApp application. What the malicious code did was to basically add spyware to the application so that the attacker could then monitor the messaging, monitoring the phone calls that WhatsApp application was doing. And it's not the first time we've seen attacks like that. So should we be surprised that someone was able to attack an application? And we're not picking on WhatsApp. The same vulnerabilities are found in other applications. Well, in effect, the attackers found a software bug. They found a buffer overflow, which let them in. And also, in reality, all software has bugs in it. There's a generally accepted industry norm that for every 1,000 lines of code you write, there will be between 15 and 50 bugs within that application. There'll be errors. Most are benign, most won't ever cause a problem. But occasionally you find a serious error which creates a security breach, a security problem. So with an average smartphone application having 50,000 lines of code, that creates between 750 and 250 bugs waiting to be exploited. So even with a comprehensive bug bounty program in place, good processes, good testing, these bugs are still there. They're still waiting to be exploited. And it's something at Verimatrix that we call a guaranteed vulnerability. Nearly all mobile apps will have something there waiting to be exploited. And what we always encourage, what we always discuss with our customers is to take practical steps. Don't try and squash every bug because you're not going to get there, but how can you practically make these bugs not become security risks, not become something which is there to be exploited, taken a part of. So the way we get to that understanding, the way we find that practical method to protect applications is to understand the mindset of the attacker, understand the process they go through to find the vulnerabilities. I've just realized So the first thing any attacker will do when they're looking to get into an application is to understand it. If you don't understand something, it's hard to attack it. So they start with an approach which is known as static analysis. It's basically reading the code. So they will download your application, either from Google Play, or maybe they'll find it on one of the APK download sites. But they'll very quickly get it off the phone and onto a desktop computer or a laptop. From there, they will unpack your application, decompile the code into something which is readable. And there's free tools online that do this for you. So it's not difficult to do. It's very, very straightforward. And if you want to see later, come and talk to me and we can show you real examples of how easy it is to unpack an application. Once it's unpacked, the attacker can start to read the code. They can start to understand what's in the code. So they've decompiled it so it's human readable. They can look at it in a text editor. They can start to grep through the code, search through the code for interesting words. Maybe words like password, maybe words like certificate. But they start to build up an understanding of how the application is put together, and how it works, and where the interesting parts are in that application. As I say, this is called static analysis, and it gives the attacker what we would term a basic understanding of how the application works. The attacker wants to keep learning, so they go further, and they move from static to dynamic analysis. Now, dynamic analysis is watching the application running. So the analogy I like to use, static analysis is like reading a book. Dynamic analysis is like playing the virtual reality video game. You're in there, you're in the depths of the code, you're watching it running, you're changing how it's running, you're prodding it, you're poking it, you're seeing how it reacts. So there's different approaches to dynamic analysis. The one I've drawn out here will put the application on a rooted phone. So we'll put it on a phone that's had its security permissions broken down. It's easy to get access to the executing code. Once we have that, we can attach a debugger to it. So we can watch what the code's doing. We can stop it, put breakpoints on it, stop it where it's interesting places. We can attach a hooking framework to that code. And a hooking framework is a way of changing the way the code's running. So you can manipulate it, you can change it, you can insert new code, you can take code out, you can skip parts of the execution, you can make it run at particular points of code of execution that are interesting to you. So we now have full control over this application. We can see what it's doing, and we can make it do what we want it to do. So we're getting a very, very good understanding. So now we need to identify vulnerabilities. Maybe we found some already, or maybe we need to go further and really find some deep ingrained vulnerabilities in that code. One approach to doing that would be to run a fuzzing attack on it. So we take the inputs of the application and we just push data through it, and we see what breaks, we see what pops out, we see what we can learn by stimulating this application in various different ways. And by doing that, we find vulnerabilities. We find if we put this input here, then this pops out over here. So we really start to understand the vulnerabilities within the application. And that gives us a very good understanding, a very good way of attacking the application. And if we go back to our WhatsApp example, our security team believe that the attackers found the vulnerability within WhatsApp through that approach I've just described. They ran the static analysis, they did a dynamic attack on it, and they fuzzed the app's inputs. In the WhatsApp case, they fuzzed the inputs that were required to make a phone call. And they found where it broke, they found the buffer that overflowed. And from there, they were able to craft their attack and then launch that attack in a scalable fashion. So the Android platform, the ecosystem of Android, is designed to protect its users, to protect its app developers. And it does a good job of that. We're not standing up, we're here trying to scare you and tell you Android's insecure, which is the myth that likes to be presented by security professionals. Android itself is a secure platform, but it's also an open platform. So And when you look across the ecosystem, the majority of device manufacturers are creating good, secure, properly implemented Android devices. Google provides a very secure ecosystem with Google Play, and services like Play Protect help to validate the applications going on Google Play so you can trust them. Services like Safety Net gives you as developers confidence your code's running in a trusted environment. So we can say that Google Play is a source of trusted applications, and it's getting better all the time. Google are getting better at finding the malicious applications on the Play Store and removing them. But with choice, with openness, comes fragmentation. So we have seen Android devices that have malware pre-installed on them. We've seen third-party app stores that have malware in them. You get some malware, you get some potentially harmful applications on Google Play. But as you can see from Google's own reporting, as soon as you move outside the Play Store to third-party app stores, that risk becomes much, much higher. And if we're looking at it from a US-centric perspective, or you can tell from my accent, a European-centric perspective, we see Google Play as being the source of applications. But if you go wider afield, and we play in a global space, if you go wider afield, you see in many countries, Google Play is not the source of applications. It's third-party app stores people go to get their applications. And if you're deploying your apps to this global audience, you need to be aware that they might be looking elsewhere to get that application. So it's secure, but it is an open ecosystem. And the OS is secure as well. Android provides good separation between different applications running. There's little real-world evidence that I can craft one application that will attack another application on a secure phone. I would love to be able to say there's hundreds of examples. You really need to secure your application because of that. But the reality is, the protections the Android operating system offers are very good at protecting one application from another. Yes, we've seen abuses. You see some malware makes its way into Google Play that abuses the permissions so it can eavesdrop across applications. Google are very good at clamping down on that, so that kind of attack becomes harder. And we do see instances of imitation or repackaged applications making its way onto Google Play or making its way onto third-party app stores. And these become a source of malware, and we'll talk more about that later. And of course, while the OS is secure, many users like to break down the security the operation provides. It's known as rooting in the Android world. And it varies from geography to geography, but our analytics data shows that in some geographies, we're seeing 10% of devices out there are rooted devices. So they've broken down the protection that Android is providing. So maybe you stop the users running your application, or maybe that's a user base that you still want to capture and still want to take over. So we've said Android's good, the ecosystem's secure, the operating system's secure. So why am I talking security? What is the risk? What is the real world? What do we actually see happening out there? And the first thing we see is users like to help themselves. To some extent, this is the equivalent of buying a CD-ROM computer game 10 years ago and giving it to your mate to install on his machine. People don't see it as criminal, they don't see it as fraud, but in reality, that's what's happening. So maybe you've created a game or a video application, and users want to install it on a device that you've said is not allowed to have that device running on. Maybe they want to sideload a video streaming application that was designed for a mobile phone and run it on their Android smart TV. Or the first attack we saw in the wild in the mobile payment space was a mobile payment application in Europe that the app developers, the bank that had published it, had said this is not allowed to run on a rooted phone. The market the geography that application was deployed in had quite a large proportion of rooted devices. So someone took the application, removed the root detection from it, and then republished it, helping themselves and helping the rest of the user base. It's not deliberately malicious, but it is changing, it's breaking down the security you wanted in your application. Maybe your application is ad funded. Users generally don't like the ads, they're a necessary evil as far as they're concerned. But what if they find a way to remove the adverts from your game or from your application or from your video stream? Users do this, they take the ads out, then they republish the application back to the third-party app stores so other people can enjoy the same benefits. Unfortunately, as a developer, when the adverts go, so does your revenue stream. And what about a gaming environment? So cheating is quite prevalent in online connected games. Users like to find a way to give themselves the best gun, to give themselves the best chance of winning the game. Unfortunately, when someone starts cheating in a game, whether it's a video game, whether it's a board game, whether it's a sport, cheating in a game takes the fun out of the game. And what you see, if you look at video games, they can be making millions of dollars a day revenue. And as soon as someone works out how to cheat in that game, the sense of fun goes out of it, and the revenue stream plummets overnight. It just collapses. And so the question to you is, would you have thought the concept of fair play was a software asset you should be protecting? The reality is it is. And as I say, once users find a way to help themselves, they'll publish their results to help others. So it very quickly spreads throughout your user base. The classic reverse engineering, the classic attack we see is IP theft. You spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of intelligence building IP, developing software. And you recruit that effort. Your reward for all that time you've put into it is usage of your application. It's people on your application using your products. But attackers will take your application once it's in the wild, they'll take the IP from it, and they'll use it as its own. In extreme cases, we've seen the same application be republished on a third-party app store under a different publisher with a different set of adverts in it, but it's the same software. And if you develop applications, if you've developed games, that may have happened to you. And another interesting attack is not necessarily attacking the software itself, but it's using that mobile application as a way of learning how to attack the rest of the ecosystem that application's running in. So the mobile application, most mobile applications these days, will talk to some sort of back-end services. There's very few apps that run in isolation. So that application is talking to back-end servers through APIs, through web services. And it's given special status. It's treated as trusted by the back-end servers. Someone using this API with this API key is known to me, let them through. So all the firewalls, all the perimeter detection, all the antivirus, everything else that IT companies are very, very good at building, we open a door straight through it and allow the mobile application to reach in and play directly with our servers. And that's what these APIs are doing. So what the bad guys will do is they will reverse engineer the mobile application, understand the protocol it's talking to the back-end services, extract the keys, and from there, they're able to attack the back-end services. So the mobile application itself is not under attack, but the wider ecosystem is, and the mobile application is the vehicle to do that. And I mentioned repackaging earlier. I mentioned that this is a threat. And repackaging is when you take a legitimate application, you crack it open using similar attack to the flow I described at the start. Then maybe you put additional code into that application. Maybe it's malware, maybe it's spyware. But then you put the application back together and you republish it up to either Google Play, which is harder and harder these days, or to third-party app stores. Users will then download that application thinking it's the genuine application. And as far as the user is concerned, it is the genuine application. 90% of that code base came from the original application. But there's just a small bit added that is sitting there hidden from the user. So it's a very, very powerful attack vehicle because the user's oblivious to the fact they've installed this malware on their device. They're happily using the service, it's working correctly, but someone's eavesdropping on the traffic, or there's some sort of other malware added into the application. And historically, there's some nice research done in Korea. Historically, there was 95% of malware was delivered through this technique. As Google cracked down and make the app stores more secure, that figure comes down, but it's still a very, very powerful way of attacking a phone, attacking a user. It's not all bad news. We can defend ourselves, we can prevent the attack. So if we go back to our simple attack path, so this is the same diagram I had at the start. I've condensed it down, made it a bit simpler. But we get the application, we do the static analysis, we build a basic understanding. We can stop the static analysis with a technique called obfuscation. Obfuscation is making code hard to read. If you use our book analogy, static analysis is reading the book, obfuscation is shredding the book so that it's no longer connected in a readable way. And a lot of people think this is enough. If you obfuscate your code, you'll stop the attack. The challenge is, this is a real example from a bank in the UK that thought they were secure. So they had their code, they'd done some very simple obfuscation, admittedly, but our attack team was able, with the help of some free online tools, to put a lot of the data back in the application, back in the code that had been removed. So we can see this package queue here, which looks benign, it doesn't look interesting. Once we've run it through the free tool online, suddenly this is the SSL socket factory. This is interesting. This is the start of our secure network comms to the back-end system. If I'm going to attack it, I've already found something interesting. So obfuscation's good, but it's not enough. If we look at the dynamic analysis we're looking at, so what a lot of people do is they'll put in environmental checks into their code. They'll look for signs that the application is running on a rooted phone, or it's running on an emulator, or someone's attached a hooking framework to it. It's good, it helps, but once that code's deobfuscated, we can see highlighted in green, we've got the call to, is this app device rooted? If I'm an attacker, it doesn't take me very long to comment out that line of code, rebuild the application. I can now run it on a rooted device. So, again, we've created a barrier, but it's not a barrier that's going to stop an attacker for long. We need to go further. We need to make our applications properly secure. We need to make sure that our code is running as we intend it to run, that someone's not removing the obfuscation, that someone's not removing the environmental checks we've put in. And we do that with a technology that we call anti-tamper, other people call integrity checking. And what it's doing is it's making sure the code that you've published to Google Play, that you've delivered to the App Store, runs on your customers' machines, on your end users' machines, even on the attacker's machines, as you've intended it to run. We make sure it's not changed, that the obfuscation you've built in has to stay there. The application can't run with it stripped out. We make sure that the root detection, the jailbreak detection, the emulation detection is still there. The application can't run with it stripped out. And we make sure that everything else about your code is the same. So someone can't manipulate the code to strip out the adverts or take out the locks on the in-game purchases so they can get the bigger gun and start cheating. We make sure the code is running exactly as you intend it to run. So it makes it hard to reverse engineer and it makes it hard to attack. And it's this anti-tamper That's the secret to making sure this happens, making sure it works. It makes the code self-protecting. It makes sure it knows it's running. And we're not talking about a few simple checksums that run at the start of the application to make sure it's running as intended. They would be stripped out as easily as the as the root detection example we showed. So what is really required to make the application secure is a network of very small checksums of checks throughout your code, constantly checking that your application's not changed, making sure these checks are checking themselves. So you can't just remove one check, you have to remove them all. And really making sure that code is trusted, not changing, not running in any malicious way. And that's where you get the real strength. Then suddenly the environmental checks we talked about work. The obfuscation we talked about works. It's all brought together in a very tight bundle. There's a cliche that security is applied in layers, but it's a very true cliche. If you apply the right layers, make sure those layers are complementary, they work together, they work with the operating system, they don't fight against it, then you get very secure applications that run as you intend them to run. They're difficult to attack, they're difficult to reverse engineer. It's a technology that's known as application shielding, and it consists of these three components. The obfuscation to make it hard to static analyze, the environmental checks to make sure you can trust the environment the code's running in, and the anti-tamper to make sure the code is running as you intended. In effect, building trust into your own code. Now for the sales pitch part of the presentation. I'll keep this brief because I don't want to stand here and pitch too much. One of the challenges traditionally with application shielding technology is it was difficult to apply. It took a lot of effort and skill on your part as the developer. And that's not where you want to spend your time. You want to spend your time developing your application, building in the cool new feature you've been asked to develop, making your application look good, making it run well. That's the fun bit. That's what you want to do. The security side, that's not in your job description. It's an added extra. So we launched a service earlier in the summer called Protect My App. And what Protect My App is, it's an online service to very easily, very quickly apply app shielding, so the obfuscation, the environmental checks, the anti-tamper to your application. And it works very simply. You upload your application to our web portal. We apply the protection intelligently, optimizing it for the nature of your application. So we're not impacting the performance, we're not changing the functionality of your application. Then we give you it back. At that point, you can take the application, upload it to Google Play, make it available to your end users. You now have a strong, protected application. And really, as a thank you for listening to me for the last half hour, we're going to give you a free trial of the service. So using the discount code droidNY19, you can use the service for 30 days. And all you need to get started is 5 minutes. That's how long it takes. Your application, a work email address to sign up, and of course the discount code to get you 30 days. Those applications you protect through that trial period stay protected even after the trial's expired. So you can publish them, make them available to end users with no risk. Try out the service. If you want to learn more, we've got a booth over in the middle of the hall. It's the orange and black one. So come and talk to us. We can discuss this in more details. I can show you some real examples of the attacks I've described, go through how they happened. And really all I ask that you take away is to remember that if your application is valuable to you and your users, then it's going to be valuable to the bad guys too. So you probably want to look at protecting your app. Thank you.